The night was calm, and the glow of the television softly illuminated our small apartment. I was sitting on the couch, one hand cradling my steaming coffee mug while the other rested on Chloe's knee. The lottery drawing was about to begin, and the anticipation in the air was palpable. Chloe always had a special way of making things feel more exciting, and that night was no different. "Have you thought about what we would do with all that money?" Chloe asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. She had this contagious way of daydreaming, and I loved that about her. "Of course. I would buy a house with a huge yard where we could have a dog and even a garden. You know how much I love gardening." I smiled, trying to envision the perfect scene, surrounded by green grass and colorful flowers. "Oh, and I would open my own clothing store. I've always dreamed of having a place where people could find unique and stylish pieces." Chloe said this with a passion that made me want to fulfill all her dreams. "And we would travel the world. Paris, Tokyo, Rio de Janeiro. All of that just from a lottery ticket," I joked, making an exaggerated grimace. "I think we need to win first." The numbers began to be drawn, and the adrenaline started to rise. I grabbed the sheets with the numbers we had chosen. Chloe leaned forward, holding her breath. The lottery host announced the numbers one by one, and with each number called, we felt a mix of hope and nervousness. "If the number 15 is called, I swear I'll do a victory dance." Chloe laughed, and I couldn't help but smile. She always knew how to turn simple moments into unforgettable memories. The numbers were being called, and to our surprise, we began marking some of them. My heart started to race, and when the last number was announced, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or if it was actually happening. "Chloe, are you seeing this?" My voice came out almost as a whisper, the shock starting to set in. "Jack, it can't be. Those are our numbers," she screamed, and in a swift movement, she hugged me so tightly that I almost fell off the couch. The feeling of euphoria was indescribable, as if we were floating. "My God, we won! We won!" Chloe kept repeating, jumping and dancing around the room. I followed her, laughing and trying to keep up with her energy. What had once been a distant dream was now becoming a tangible reality. "Let's celebrate. What do you want to do? Go out for dinner? Or maybe some ice cream?" I asked, trying to think of something that could capture the happiness we felt. "I just want to be here with you, Jack. That's the best part," she said, stopping her dance to look me in the eyes. In that moment, I realized that regardless of what happened from then on, the most important thing was that we were together. The celebration continued for hours, filled with laughter and wild plans. Yet, in the back of our happiness, there was a shadow of uncertainty. I knew that winning the lottery could change our lives in ways we couldn't even imagine. The next day, the news of our win spread like wildfire. I had never seen the city so bustling. People stopped us on the street to congratulate us, and friends and family began calling, all wanting to know how we felt. Even those who hadn't spoken to us in years reappeared, as if they had been waiting for this moment. "Jack, did you see what Maria posted on Facebook? She said we're the new sensation of the city." Chloe commented, laughing as she scrolled through social media. "Yeah, and that's definitely going to bring a bunch of people looking for favors, right?" I joked, but the truth was that the pressure was starting to build. "Oh, come on. Let's enjoy this. It's our chance," she replied, her unshakable optimism once again contagious. But while she spoke, I couldn't help but wonder how wealth would change our day-to-day lives. That week, we received an avalanche of messages and calls. Some people wanted to congratulate us. Others asked for financial help or investments. A childhood friend of mine, David, showed up at our door, his eyes shining. "You won't believe it. I'm friends with the lottery-winning couple," he joked, giving me a strong hug. "What are you guys going to do with all that cash?" "We're thinking about a few things, but it's all still in the planning phase," I replied, trying to hide the unease that was starting to rise within me. "Look, if you need advice, I'm here. And if you need someone to invest with, you can count on me," he said, winking and laughing. Meanwhile, I noticed the conversation was shifting tone. It was no longer about celebration, but about expectations and responsibilities. Thanks, David. We'll definitely think about it. But to be honest, we just want to enjoy this moment for now, Chloe interjected, more optimistic than I was. But as the days passed, the pressure only increased. I began to notice different looks from people, as if they were evaluating our every move. The messages became more insistent, and I felt increasingly suffocated. Jack, are you okay? Chloe asked one night as we lay in bed, the heavy silence hanging in the air. Yeah, just thinking about all of this. I let slip, and looking at her, I saw the concern on her face. I know everything has changed, but remember we're in this together. Let's talk about it tomorrow, okay? She smiled, trying to reassure me. Sure, love. I just need some time to process it all. I hugged her, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that our simple life was about to be transformed in ways we could never imagine. And so, with my heart divided between the joy of victory and the fear of the unknown, I fell asleep, dreaming of what the future might hold. That sunny morning, as the aroma of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, I lost myself in thoughts about the future. The clothing store I had always dreamed of was starting to become a reality. It was a big step, and the idea of opening the doors to my own business excited and anxious me at the same time. Jack was sitting at the table, flipping through some lifestyle magazines, but I noticed his mind was elsewhere, lost in a world that wasn't ours. Hey, love, I called, trying to pull his mind back to the conversation. Have you thought about how amazing our store plan could be? I have so many ideas. He slowly lifted his eyes, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of interest, but it was quickly replaced by a distant expression. Yeah, sure. ###, it's going to be great, he murmured, lacking enthusiasm. Frustrated, I took a deep breath and tried not to let his disinterest affect me. I want you to be as excited as I am, Jack. This is a big change for us. We can create something really special together. He sighed, closing the magazine. Chloe, I know this is important to you, but have you thought about how this will affect us? Opening a store is a huge commitment. Those words cut through me. I knew he was worried, but I couldn't understand why he didn't see the potential of this new phase. I just want to try, Jack. We have this opportunity now, and I want to seize it. What do you think could go wrong? It's not that I think it will go wrong, it's just... He hesitated, looking out the window as if searching for something beyond it. I just see so many people taking advantage of us because of the money. This could change everything between us. Those words echoed in my mind, and insecurity began to seep in. I won't let that change who we are. What matters is that we're together, right? He nodded, but the smile that used to light up his face was absent. Yeah, together, but I just hope this doesn't pull us apart. That conversation left me feeling uneasy. In the days that followed, Jack seemed more distant, diving into a world I didn't recognize. He started hanging out with new friends, people who introduced themselves as investors and entrepreneurs, and I couldn't shake the cold knot in my stomach every time he left. The wealth we had dreamed of so much seemed to be creating a barrier between us. One night, while I was organizing some items for the store, I received a text from a friend. Chloe, have you seen how Jack is? He's with a woman at Brad's party. They look pretty close. My heart raced. How could he be at a party without telling me? And who was this woman? I decided I couldn't just sit back. Curiosity and worry consumed me. And that night after Jack left, I grabbed my car and headed to Brad's house. The party was filled with laughter and loud music, but my heart felt heavy. I needed to know the truth. As soon as I entered, I spotted Jack across the room, surrounded by a group of people laughing. And there, beside him, was a woman I had never seen before. She was tall, with long hair and a contagious laughter that seemed to draw everyone's attention. Jack was smiling at her in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. My stomach churned. What was happening to him? The feeling of betrayal began to consume me. With my heart in my throat, I approached closer, trying not to be noticed. You're really amazing, Jack. We should hang out more, I heard the woman say, and the way she leaned towards him made my blood boil. Yeah, of course. I'd love to, he replied, with a spark in his eyes that was familiar, but it wasn't directed at me. The pain of those words was suffocating. What was happening to the man I loved? How could he be swept away by this new life, forgetting about us? I decided I needed to confront him. Taking a deep breath, I moved toward him, feeling the weight of each step. "Jack!" I called out, and he turned, the smile vanishing instantly upon seeing me. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" He looked nervous, almost scared. "I could ask you the same thing. Who are you here with?" The anger was bubbling to the surface, and the woman beside him was now watching with a surprised expression. "This is just a party, love. I'm here with friends," he tried to justify, but the hesitation in his voice was evident. "Oh, really? Because it looks like you're having a great time. Especially with her." I pointed to the woman, who now seemed uncomfortable, yet still smiled. "Chloe, it's not what you're thinking. She's just a coworker. We're talking about business." "Business?" I laughed, but not in a playful way. "Jack, this doesn't look like just business. You're changing and I can't keep up." He looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and perhaps guilt. I'm trying to adapt. This new life, all this money. The people around me are different. I thought you'd understand." "Understand what, Jack? That you're pulling away from me. That you're getting involved with people who don't care about you. That's not who you are." Frustration exploded within me. "You don't understand. Feel pressured. Everyone expects me to be different now. They expect me to succeed, and I don't want to disappoint them." "And you don't care if you disappoint me?" I asked, the pain in my voice undeniable. He hesitated, and in that moment, I realized the connection we had was unraveling. "Chloe, I don't know what to do. I just need some time to think." His words hit me like a blow. Time. What did that mean for us? What could I do to stop wealth from tearing us apart? The love we had built was on the verge of being destroyed by something that, in essence, should have united us. I left the party with a heavy heart, the image of Jack and that woman haunting me. Loneliness settled in, and doubt morphed into a labyrinth of uncertainties. I needed to understand what was really happening. Above all, I needed to find a way to bring Jack back. The house was silent when I decided to confront Jack. The environment that had once felt welcoming now seemed oppressive, as if the walls were closing in around us. The smell of the dinner I had prepared still lingered in the air, but the cold food on the table held no appeal. I couldn't stop thinking about the nights he came home later, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. Curiosity and pain intertwined in my chest, forming a knot I couldn't untangle. "Jack, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He was sitting on the couch, head down, absorbed in his phone. He looked up slowly, as if waking from a dream. "About what, Chloe?" he asked, but I could tell he already knew. "About you and your outings," I said, my voice trembling. "About that woman you've been seeing. What's going on?" He stood up abruptly, his expression shifting from surprise to instant defensiveness. "What are you insinuating? I'm not seeing anyone." He seemed genuinely offended, but the hesitation in his voice didn't go unnoticed. "Jack, I'm not blind. I can see you're changing. You're pulling away from me, and it hurts," I said, feeling tears threatening to spill. "You're more interested in parties and people we don't know than in us." He took a step toward me, but not enough to comfort me. "You're exaggerating, Chloe. I'm just trying to enjoy life. Wealth. It changes things. You can't expect everything to stay the same." "I don't want everything to stay the same. I just want you back," I nearly shouted, frustration exploding from within me. "Don't you realize that this new life is driving us apart? You're becoming someone I don't recognize. And I don't know how to deal with it." He took a deep breath, as if trying to find the right words. "I just want us to enjoy this together. I'm not doing anything wrong." "But you are, Jack. You're pushing me away. It's like you're more interested in having fun than in building something around us. What happened to our dreams?" the store I want to open, the trips we planned. The sadness in my voice was unmistakable. I'm just trying to adapt. It's a new world, Chloe. All of this is a bit overwhelming for me too, he replied, but the defensiveness was clear in his tone. Then why don't you let me into this world? Why don't you include me in your adventures? Instead, you just sink deeper and deeper into something I don't understand, I said, the pain transforming into desperation. He turned, looking out the window as if the answers were out there, instead of within us. I don't know how to do this, Chloe. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing control. And when that happens, I just go along with it. Control what, Jack? What do you have to lose that you haven't already lost by leaving me behind? I didn't want to be aggressive, but the insecurity was consuming me. He turned back, and the look in his eyes was one of confusion. I just want to be happy. I want us both to be happy. And believe me, it's not easy dealing with all of this. Happiness isn't about money, Jack. It never was. It's about us, about what we build together. I don't want to be just a spectator in your new life. I want to be part of it, I said, the sincerity in my tone palpable. The tension between us grew. He started pacing the room, as if trying to process everything I'd said. I watched him, my heart racing, hoping he would find some clarity in his own confusion. I just don't want you to think I don't care. I care a lot, he finally said, his voice lower, almost a whisper. But maybe I've lost myself in all of this. Maybe I've let ambition blind me. Then let's find each other again, Jack. Let's rediscover who we are. We can do this, can't we? I stepped closer to him, searching for a sign that hope still remained. I don't know, Chloe. I feel like I'm on a one-way street. My new friends, they're not like you and me. They have their own agendas, their own ambitions, he said, frustration evident in his voice. You don't need them. You never did. We were happy with our simple lives. Remember our plans. Don't you want to go back to that? I pleaded, but doubt was written all over his face. The distance between us seemed to widen even more. Jack looked down at the floor, as if weighing his choices. I just don't want to lose what I've gained. And at the same time, I don't want to lose you, he admitted, vulnerability finally surfacing. So make a choice, Jack. Choose what really matters. Money or love, wealth or happiness. We can't keep going like this, I said, feeling the urgency of the moment. He closed his eyes, as if struggling to find an answer. I need time, was all he could manage to say. Time? You're just going to drift further away from me, Jack. That's not going to help us, I said, desperation now turning into a feeling of helplessness. I'll try, Chloe. I promise I'll try, he said, but the look in his eyes was still lost, and I knew the struggle was far from over. The following days were a whirlwind. Jack started to pull away even more, diving into new friendships, while I tried to keep my head above water. The pain of betrayal, even if unconfirmed, was a constant shadow in my heart. The nights were long and lonely, and I could no longer see the future we had dreamed of together. One day, while organizing some things at home, I received a message from David, a childhood friend who had always been a safe harbor. Hey, Chloe. How are you? I've missed you. Let's meet up. The idea of seeing David brought a breath of relief. He always knew how to listen and how to make me feel better. Sure, David. Let's do it, I replied, feeling a bit lighter. Deep down, I knew I needed someone I could trust, someone who could help me see things from a different perspective. As the hours passed, the anticipation of reconnecting with an old friend brought me a glimmer of hope. I just wanted someone who could help me understand what was happening in my life and in my relationship. When we finally met at a local cafe, David smiled when he saw me. Chloe, you look beautiful. I've missed you. He hugged me tightly, and a wave of comfort washed over me. Thanks, David. I've missed you too, I said, trying to hide the sadness that consumed me. We sat and talked about everything from the old days to the changes in our lives. With every word, I felt like I was reclaiming parts of myself that had been lost in the chaos. And Jack, how are you handling his new life? David asked, his gaze attentive and concerned. I don't know what to think anymore, David. I feel like I'm losing him and I don't know how to bring him back. He's so involved with these new people. I don't recognize my husband anymore, I said, my voice choked. You deserve to be happy, Chloe. Don't forget that. Sometimes we need a jolt to realize what really matters, he replied, and his words resonated with me. We talked for hours, and with each shared story, each laugh, I began to realize that life wasn't just made of ups and downs. It was made of connections, of love, and above all, choices. I knew I would need to make a decision, not just about Jack, but about what I truly wanted for myself. And David was there, reminding me that, no matter what happened, there would always be a light, even in the darkest nights. Anger pulsed through my veins like an uncontrollable fire. I couldn't believe that Chloe had gotten close to David. My heart raced, and her voice echoed in my mind, filled with doubts and insecurities. When I saw her that afternoon, the sun was setting, casting a golden light over the city. But at that moment, everything felt dark. Chloe, how could you do this? Hashtag, I asked, my voice sharp as a blade. Her expression hardened, and I saw determination shine in her eyes. And what do you have to say about this, Jack? She replied, crossing her arms. You pulled away from me and I felt alone. David was a friend when I needed one the most. But that doesn't justify what you did, I retorted, nearly shouting. You sought comfort in another man's arms. She took a deep breath, and I could tell she was holding back from exploding. The discomfort between us became palpable, as if an invisible barrier had formed. I didn't seek him out. He was there, Jack. While you were off having fun with your friends from high society, I felt abandoned. David just listened to me. And you? What do you have to say about your secret outings? I stared at her, my anger shifting into a mix of guilt and frustration. What could I say? She was right, but I didn't want to admit that betrayal wasn't hers alone. My betrayal had been different, but equally devastating. I'm not cheating on you, I started, but the insecurity in my voice betrayed my argument. I just wanted to enjoy life, you know? Enjoy life. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was bitter. You've forgotten what really matters, Jack. You've forgotten us. I haven't forgotten, I said, my voice faltering. I just wanted a little excitement. And our life isn't exciting enough? Chloe asked, the pain in her gaze cutting through me like a blow. What more do you want? Silence settled between us, and I realized that everything I had done had brought me to this dark place. The allure of money, the attempt to live a life that wasn't mine. It was all crumbling around me. Chloe, I don't know what to do. I confessed, vulnerability taking over. I feel like I've lost you. Maybe that's what we need, Jack. Some time apart to understand what we really want, she said, her gaze distant. Those words hurt more than any accusation. The weight of reality was overwhelming, and I didn't want to accept that we had come to this point. But at the same time, something inside me knew she was right. We needed space. Are you saying we should separate? I asked, my voice barely able to escape. Think so. We need time to think, she replied, and I saw a tear slip down her face. Chloe. I started, but the words got lost. I didn't know what else to say. She turned her back and began to walk away, and I felt powerless, as if I were watching a movie where I was just a spectator. The last lights of day faded, and I stood still, immersed in a sea of confusion and regret. The days that followed our separation were pure torment. I immersed myself in a lifestyle that once seemed so appealing, but now it was just a mask for the loneliness and emptiness I felt. The parties, the lavish dinners, and the friends who once surrounded me felt superficial and hollow. It was as if I were living in a dream that had turned into a nightmare. Hey, Jack! Shouted one of my friends, Dan, as he pulled me to dance at a party. You're too still. Let's have some fun. I'm not in the mood, I replied, trying to maintain my composure. Oh, come on. You can't keep moping over that girl. There are plenty of others out there. He insisted, but his words made no sense to me. That night, while trying to distract myself, I realized there was no substitute for Chloe. I went to the bar and ordered a drink, letting the alcohol intoxicate me. But with each sip, her presence consumed me even more. The emptiness she left in my life was unbearable. Days turned into weeks, and reality began to set in. Bills started piling up, and the shine of money that once seemed so abundant was now just a distant memory. I found myself drowning in debt, spending what I didn't have on parties that didn't make me happy. One night, in the solitude of my apartment, I realized I needed help. I picked up my phone and hesitated to call Chloe, but ultimately called one of my friends. "Hey man, what's going on?" he asked, his voice cheerful. "I don't know, Dan. I'm in trouble. Things aren't good." "Oh, that's normal when you're making money. You just need to invest more." "Invest?" I laughed, a dry laugh. "I'm drowning in debt." "Then just ask for more. You're a lottery winner, right?" The conversation left me even more confused. I didn't want this lifestyle anymore. What once seemed exciting was now just a facade hiding my inability to deal with reality. I needed Chloe. I needed the love we had, the simplicity we shared. But the thought of going back felt terrifying, as if I were surrendering to a weakness. As days passed, I realized that wealth didn't bring happiness. That life I had dreamed of was nothing compared to the love I had for Chloe. I had lost her because of my own ambition and selfishness. The irony of the situation hit me hard. Finally, one night, as I looked out the window with the moonlight reflecting on the empty streets, I made a decision. I needed to find Chloe and apologize, admit my mistakes, and perhaps try to regain what we had lost. What I truly wanted was her love, not a lifestyle that left me so dissatisfied. I stood up, determined, and set out to find her, nurturing the hope that there was still a chance to start over. The daylight filtered through the curtains of my old store, now empty. The aroma of fresh coffee wafted from the small coffee maker I still kept on one of the shelves. I had decided to close the store, a dream that once felt so tangible and yet so distant. The idea of helping the community had taken hold of my mind and heart, a way to give new meaning to the wealth that had, in some ways, become a burden. As I looked around, memories of smiles and conversations with customers flashed through my mind. Each piece of clothing I sold had a story, and now I was about to write a new chapter. I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. "Chloe, are you really going to do this?" I asked myself in a whisper. The echo of my voice seemed to resonate in the vast emptiness of the space. The idea of a community project began to take shape. I wanted to create a space where people could gather, exchange ideas, learn skills, and, more importantly, support each other in difficult times. With what was left of my lottery winnings, I decided to invest in something that would truly make a difference. ####. My mind was filled with plans, but my heart was still aching from the distance between me and Jack. Thinking of him still tied my stomach in knots. Despite everything, I wished he was okay. There were moments when I caught myself wondering how he was coping with the consequences of his choices. What was he doing now? His life, now that everything seemed to be crumbling, was no longer the same one I knew. "You need to focus on yourself, Chloe," I told myself, determined not to let it get to me. That afternoon, as I began sketching ideas for my project, I received a message from David. He had become an important support in my life and, in a way, an anchor amid the whirlwind of emotions I was facing. "Hey, Chloe. How are you? Want to grab a coffee?" The invitation was comforting, and I accepted without hesitation. When we met at a small cafe in downtown, the aroma of coffee and fresh pastries enveloped us like a hug. David always had a way of making things seem simpler. He looked at me with an expression that mixed concern and affection. "You seem lighter, but there's still a shadow in your eyes. What happened between you and Jack?" He didn't waste time addressing the subject, and I appreciated his honesty. "It's complicated, David. I thought wealth would bring us closer, but it ended up pushing us apart. He got swept away by this new world, and I I can't even recognize the person he's become. I decided to close the store and invest in something that truly matters to me. A community project, I explained, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. That's amazing, Chloe. You've always been someone who cares about others. This project can change lives, he said, encouraging me. But I sensed that even with his supportive words, there was a weight on my shoulders. And what about Jack? Aren't you considering giving him another chance? David's question cut like a knife. I didn't know the answer. I don't know, David. Part of me still loves him, but I can't forget what he did. And the pressure he felt. I can't believe he let himself get caught up in that. He was so different before all this, I confessed, looking down at my coffee as if I could find the answers I was seeking there. David leaned forward, his expression serious. Sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find our way back. But you have to ask yourself, are you willing to risk getting hurt again? Wealth can bring strange people into our lives, but true love is built on trust and respect. His words resonated deeply within me. The trust we once had been destroyed, and I didn't know if it could be rebuilt. I just want to do the right thing, you know? I want to help people and at the same time find my way back, I murmured, feeling tears threatening to spill down my face. He smiled softly. You're doing the right thing, Chloe. And who knows, maybe Jack can find his way back to you too, but that has to be on him, not because of your pressure. Remember, you're not responsible for his choices. The conversation with David left me reflective. I knew he was right. Love shouldn't be an obligation, and I couldn't carry the weight of Jack's choices. After we said our goodbyes, I returned home with a renewed sense of determination. It was time to focus on myself, to build something that truly made a difference. In the following days, I began working on my community project. I gathered a few people from the town who were willing to help, and together we organized meetings to discuss what we could do. Enthusiasm grew with each gathering, and I felt like I was rediscovering a purpose. There was something incredibly rewarding about seeing people come together for a greater good. Something I had never experienced before. Yet still, the thought of Jack lingered in my mind. Sometimes, I'd see him in places we used to frequent together, and the pain of longing hit me like a wave. He was still out there, living with his consequences, but I was determined not to let that consume me. I had a new path to follow. Then one day, while organizing materials for the project, I received an unexpected call. It was Jack. My heart raced, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Hey, Chloe, can you hear me? His voice sounded hesitant, and suddenly everything I had planned to say got stuck in my throat. Jack, I don't know if this is a good idea, I started, but he quickly interrupted. Please just listen to me. I know I messed up. I got swept away by everything, and I've realized I lost what really mattered. I don't want to live like this anymore, he said, desperation evident in his voice. And what do you expect from me, Jack? I can't just forget everything that happened. You hurt me, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But the truth was that a part of me still held out hope. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me right now. But I want to try. I want to be a better person, and it starts with you. Can I meet you? We need to talk, he implored. I hesitated, but as I looked out the window and saw the sun setting, I remembered how Jack used to make me feel. Joy, love, hope. All of that was so present, even if it now seemed distant. Okay, Jack, let's meet. But I need you to understand that things won't be easy, I warned, trying to protect myself. I understand. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes, he replied, and for a moment, a spark of hope flickered back to life in my heart. I went to the meeting with a mix of anxiety and determination. Whatever happened, I was ready to confront the truth. The road ahead would be difficult, but maybe, just maybe, love could still find a way to shine through the shadows. I was sitting at the kitchen table, my phone vibrating repeatedly on the wooden surface. My heart raced, a sense of apprehension enveloping me. The number displaying on the screen was unknown, but the urgency of that call compelled me to answer. Hello, I responded, trying to keep my voice steady. The voice on the other end was cold and professional. Chloe Evans. I'm an attorney from Brown and Associates. We need to talk about your husband, Jack Miller. His words hit me like a bucket of cold water. A knot formed in my stomach. About Jack. What happened? Anxiety surged with each passing second, as if the atmospheric pressure had shifted drastically. The attorney explained that Jack was involved in a fraud scheme that included some of his new friends. He warned me that, as his wife, I could be implicated, and it was wise for me to seek a lawyer for my own protection. I hung up the phone, my mind swirling in a whirlwind of thoughts. How could he do this? The man I loved, who had promised to build a life with me, was now at the center of a scandal. As the reality settled in, a mix of anger and sadness washed over me. How could I trust him again? I needed to see Jack and demand the truth. When I arrived at our old apartment, the place that had once been a symbol of our happiness, I found Jack sitting on the couch, his eyes lost in some distant point. He didn't notice my presence until I called his name. Jack! My voice sounded more like a scream than I intended. He lifted his head, and the expression on his face was a mix of guilt and fear. Chloe! He began, but I didn't let him finish. You need to tell me everything. What's going on? The lawyer. He said you're involved in a fraud scheme. My voice trembled, but my determination was firm. Jack closed his eyes, as if trying to find the right words. Hey, I didn't want this to happen. I thought I was just investing in some opportunities. But things went too far. The woman who was with me, she manipulated me. Manipulated? How so? I was furious. You believed a stranger out of nowhere. And why didn't you tell me earlier? I need to know if I'm going to be implicated in this. I didn't know it was a scheme. Swear, Chloe. I just wanted to feel like I belonged to something bigger, something more. My friends deceived me. They promised me the world and I fell for it. He seemed genuinely remorseful, but the pain and betrayal still weighed heavily on me. So you let yourself be swayed by those empty promises. Look where this has brought us, Jack. You destroyed everything we built together. I can't believe you let yourself be led by that woman without character. Tears began to stream down my face, and I couldn't control the pain he had caused me. He tried to reach for me, but I pulled away. Chloe, please. I'm an idiot. I didn't think about the consequences. I just wanted to escape the monotonous life we had. The parties, the cars, the feeling of being someone important. And I got lost. Lost. And what about me? You lost me too. I fought to bring you back, to save our relationship. And now you tell me you were getting involved in something illegal? I was about to explode. Anger surged through my veins, but at the same time, a part of me still cared for him. I don't know what to do, Chloe. I'm scared. They're coming after me. I know this could end in prison, and if that happens, you shouldn't get involved. He seemed genuinely afraid, and for a moment my heart broke for him again. But logic and reason quickly took control. You can't protect me from yourself, Jack. I need to think about all of this. I can't be dragged down by your choices. I felt like I needed space to process everything. And then I remembered David, my childhood friend, who had always been a pillar during crises. With a lump in my throat, I left the apartment. The night was cold and the streets were silent, but my heart was at war. I needed someone to support me, someone who could help me see the truth behind all that pain. I went to David's house, anxious for advice, for shelter. When I arrived, he was watching TV. Upon seeing me, he immediately got up and came over. Chloe, you look pale. What happened? He pulled me into a tight hug, and in that moment, all the repressed emotions came flooding out. I began to cry uncontrollably. David, it's Jack. He's involved in something terrible. I'm so lost. I don't know what to do. The words spilled out of me like a confession from someone who had been carrying an unbearable weight. Calm down, breathe. What exactly happened? David guided me to the couch, making me sit down. I explained everything, from the lawyer's call to what Jack had confessed. He listened attentively without interrupting. Chloe, this is serious. You really should seek a lawyer to protect yourself. But you can't let this consume you. You need to focus on what's best for you right now. His voice was firm, and I knew he was right. I don't want to lose everything I've built, but at the same time, I can't stay with someone who betrayed me and put me at risk. The struggle within me was intense. David looked me in the eyes, and I saw sincerity in his gaze. You're strong, Chloe. And you deserve someone who makes you happy, who doesn't put you in situations like this. He took my hand and held it, as if he understood I needed support. I'll be by your side no matter what you decide. Those words gave me a bit of comfort, but the reality of Jack still weighed on my heart. I needed to act. Determined, I took out my phone and called the lawyer. It was time to protect myself, to pull away from this nightmare. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I sat down with the lawyer and explained the situation. He advised me on how to proceed, and as I left his office, a sense of relief began to wash over me. It was a step toward freedom. Jack had no idea what was about to happen. With David's help, I decided to do the right thing. I couldn't let Jack pull me down. It would be painful, but the truth needed to come to light, and I was ready to face the consequences. If Jack had to pay for his actions, I couldn't allow myself to be his accomplice. When the truth finally emerged, all the schemes and betrayals were exposed. Jack was arrested, and while my heart was broken, I knew I was making the right choice. The pain of betrayal was hard to bear, but I also realized that true wealth lay in my integrity and self-love. I was finally ready to move on, stronger and more determined. The lessons learned would guide me on a new path. True love is not measured in material possessions, but in the choices we make and the people we decide to be.